Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, friends, and hello, friends, and welcome to episode 9. I don't like the way that sounds. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Friends, hello. People of Earth. Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 955 of... No, not okay. Are you guys hearing that? Am I going to leave all this in? Probably not. Hold on. All right. Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 955 of the Juicebox Podcast. Nailed it. Sammy's with me today. She has type 1 diabetes and is blind. She also has some other issues. She's had a transplant. There's a lot going on here. This is a very, 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 very interesting and honest interview. While you're listening to it, please remember that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. drinkag1.com/juicebox. That's my link to get started with AG1. When you use the link, you'll get 5 free travel packs and a year's supply of vitamin D with your first order. My Cozy Earth offer code now gets you 40% off everything at CozyEarth.com. That offer code, Juicebox. I'm talking about super comfortable, luxurious bedding, clothing, and towels. CozyEarth.com. Use the offer code Juicebox at checkout to save 40% off your entire order. All right, I hope you enjoy Sammy as much as I did. I'll see you on the other side. Today's episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by Dexcom. Dexcom, of course, makes the Dexcom G6 and Dexcom G7 continuous glucose monitors. Dexcom.com/juicebox. The podcast is also sponsored by Touched by Type 1. They've got their big event coming up soon. I'm going to be there speaking. You should come. touchedbytype1.org. The event is free and open to everybody whose lives are touched by type 1 diabetes.
Hi, I'm Sammy, and I am a diabetic who is blind from type 1 diabetes.
Okay. Sammy, you were how old when you got type 1?
17.
How old are you now?
48.
17, 48. Okay. And was there other type 1 in your family or other autoimmune diseases?
No one on either side. It was new. In high school, I never even heard of the word diabetes, never heard of the disease. So it was all new to me and my family.
And just 17 years old, bang, here it is. That's 31 years ago. Is that right? No.
Yep.
Yeah, no,
Yep.
I'm right. Okay, so in the early 90s?
Yep, 92. The end of my junior year.
So this is right around the time people are transitioning to faster insulins, away from maybe starting to get away from regular and MPH. What did you start with?
I just remember it was a vial and syringe. I honestly don't remember what I started with. At that time I was sighted, and over a 2-week period is when I kind of experienced the symptoms of weight loss and having to urinate all the time, dry mouth. Didn't really think anything of it. My brother had mentioned something, and so went to the doctor and tested my blood sugar, and it was over 600.
Wow. Your brother mentioned that you look like you lost weight?
Yeah.
Interesting age. So you're 17. Does this lead to your parents saying, Sammy, we're going to help you with this? Or does it lead them to say, well, this is your thing, you're going to have to take care of it? Or how does that go?
Like I said, it was new to all of us. So we were learning together. Mm-hmm. And at that time, back in the 90s, I kind of had an older doctor who was kind of by the book where no sugar, none of that good stuff. And I'm like, I'm a teenager. I live off of sugar. I live off of Mountain Dew and Snickers. And so that was a big step to try to change, but I didn't. I just thought the doctor didn't know nothing. I'm a teenager. Nothing's going to happen to me. I'm invincible. I know better.
Right. So you're met with change your diet, and you say, no, I'm not going to do that.
No, I didn't say, because I was still in that kind of fear mode of what is happening to me, and don't know what it's going to bring to my future, So I just kind of did it on the sly, underneath my parents' nose, and they were trying to help me eat right and stuff. But when you're at school, vending machines, that was my go-to lunch.
How were you doing the insulin? Do you remember, were you shooting it twice a day? Were you shooting it at meals? How was the management set up?
It was supposed to be with meals, but oftentimes I skipped because I was in between classes and stuff. I would check my blood sugar at my locker, trying to be really discreet. And so oftentimes I just skipped it and kind of guessed on what I ate and what my blood sugar was, and kind of went from there. And over 12 years, that kind of habit led to losing my sight.
Wow. How long did that take to happen?
It happened in 2004. So it was gradually over 8 months. I noticed, ironically, I was working at a deaf and blind school. And I woke up one morning and my eyes were swollen and my vision was blurry, and it'd take half a day for my vision to return. So then I decided to go to see an eye doctor, and they said both of my retinas were detaching, and I would need surgery. And at that time I was working part-time, no insurance. And back in the 90s, if you didn't do college or anything, you worked under your parents' insurance. So after 18, I was on my own.
Yeah.
So no insurance, paying out of pocket for meds that I really couldn't afford, using syringes twice, sometimes 3 times, just to save money. So it was a lot of mistakes for sure.
So that onset of that issue is about 12 years after your diagnosis.
Yeah. Okay.
And for those 12 years, I want to try to give people a picture. And by the way, you're very kind to come on and talk about all this. What did you not do for 12 years? That I think that's what I want to know about. Like, and were you not doing it because you didn't know better? Were you not doing it because you just thought, oh, it's not going to happen to me? Like, what was your whole mindset around it?
All of the above. I'm like, it's going to interfere with my life, with my sports. Again, nothing's going to happen to me, going into my early 20s, very active in sports, and taking the time, like in between games, especially on the weekends, competitive softball. There was no, you didn't really have time. So just skipped 8 meals, skipped my insulin. Sugar was skyrocketing high. Would take it just for the blood sugar, the correction, and then it would drop with the sports. So it was a roller coaster up and down all the time, but more so on the high side than the low side. We're talking 300s, 400s. And back then I wouldn't feel sick like some people do. It was more of the dry mouth that I would experience. And I would think, oh, yep, I know it's high. 2, trying to save on test strips because those are expensive too. Mm-hmm. So guessing what my blood sugar was based off how I felt. So a lot of misbehaving, I guess. I'm like, again, couldn't afford to go to the doctor, so try to do everything on my own. And at that time, I'm still new to it. So a lot of guessing of what I should do, and a lot of bad guessing.
Do you recall getting information from doctors that was valuable that you were ignoring or misunderstanding, or was it not even coming?
It was probably there. Back then there was no internet, nothing. So it was paper. And I'm like, have time to sit here and read this, you know. But it wasn't, I don't even think I even met with a nutritionist back then, too. It was just strictly the doctor. And like I said, she was kind of older and old fashioned. And I didn't like her. My parents didn't like her, but that's who I had as a doctor. So again, trying to avoid not going to see her was my biggest thing. And then she retired and got a new doctor, which was younger and who I liked a lot. But again, still couldn't afford the appointments, couldn't afford the insulin, the syringes, the test strips. So a lot of
Right.
skipping.
Your parents couldn't afford to help you either.
No, we had four brothers, so it was tight.
Was there ever any conversation about what the consequence would be of that?
Probably. I don't remember, but probably. And I know over the years, doctors would kind of warn me. I'm like, hey, you don't know nothing. You know, this is my health, my life. I'm okay. But I did notice a few years before I lost my vision in '04 that my vision would get blurry. And I just thought, well, I'm working nights. I'm tired. My eyes are tired. But I never got my eyes checked because I couldn't afford it either. So there were signs that I just ignored.
Yeah. No, I understand. What does it mean that you lost your sight? What is the level of, are you sighted?
No vision.
There's
no vision, nothing whatsoever.
Okay. So things are like, as you and I are talking right now, how do you describe what you take in? Is it black?
Like blackness. Yeah. Like if you were in a dark room, that's like you don't see anything. Or if you close your eyes, there's nothing there.
Right. Is it helpful in your day-to-day life that you were sighted for a while, or does it not matter?
I definitely miss it. I miss my brothers growing up, and now I have nephews that I've never seen, or last time I seen them was 2 years old, and they're 28 and 23 now. So that's the last image I have in my mind is the last time I saw them. My two younger brothers were elementary and middle school. So there's a lot of things that I miss for sure. I miss driving for sure. Uber and Lyft is great, but it's expensive. And so not being able to get in the car and go whenever I want to, wherever I want to, is something I really miss. But on the flip side of that is I've met so many nice people as a blind person. And I tell people that I've been more blessed as a blind person than I was as a sighted person. And kind of what I mean by that is, for me as a sighted person, more superficial, hanging around those who maybe were prettier than me or more athletic than me, just to try to fit in. And now I don't see skin color. I see personality. I see what comes from the heart.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference as to who is in my life now and before.
What are day to day? Are there things that you can't accomplish that you miss, or do you just adapt?
Yeah, adapt. There's lots of technology out there. Like the Apple has what's called VoiceOver, and Apple specifically created that for blind and visually impaired people. So that's been helpful. Where I've been able to use a cell phone. My laptop is what's called JAWS, which is job access with speech. So it's what's called a screen reader. So it can read it, what's on my screen, anything that I type. Same thing with the phone. So that's been helpful. There's talking glucometers. There's talking scales. Just a lot of technology out there that I didn't really have when I first lost my vision. And now it's like, I don't need to. I learned Braille, but I couldn't read it because I had neuropathy in my hands, in my fingertips, and neuropathy in my feet. So Braille was really no use to me. So the technology has been, for me, a good blessing because I'm able to do things on my own. It's very rare that I ask for help, whether it's finding something, or say my phone's acting up and I can't scan the barcode to get the nutritional information for my carbs and serving size and stuff like that. That's when I rely on family and friends. But for the most part, I can live on my own.
Wow. What do you think your A1Cs were for those 12 years?
Double digits for sure. In my early 20s, as a type 1 diabetic, I was drinking a 12-pack of Mountain Dew a day. And now I just drink strictly water. I'm more plant-based than anything, and that's helped my blood sugars quite a bit, especially with chronic kidney disease, which led to end-stage renal disease, which now leads to dialysis. So all that's coming from uncontrolled diabetes.
Yeah. How long have you been on dialysis?
Couple months.
Couple months. And what's the prognosis? What are you hoping to have happen? Are you waiting for a transplant?
Yeah, my older brother is a match. My first transplant was in 2006. My dad gave me one of his kidneys. In 2007, I had a pancreas transplant, which was great because no more diabetes. That failed unexpectedly 2.5 years later. So in 2010, I believe, back to being a type 1 diabetic. 2013 had another pancreas transplant, which lasted 5 years, and that failed unexpectedly as well. So back to being a diabetic again. And now I am July 10th, I will go to one of the hospitals where I'm at and get evaluated for a transplant. My older brother is a match, so that's good. I don't have to wait years to find somebody, especially with 3 transplants. The antibodies are harder to match. And so, but thankfully he's a match. And then once he does his evaluation, I do my evaluation. We get our testing completed. We can put something on the calendar for a transplant.
Can you tell me what it's like to approach a person and ask them a question like that?
Hey family, does anybody want to donate one of your kidneys? My older, I have 4 brothers. My 2 younger brothers have kids, so I didn't want to approach them. Yeah. My second brother is single, and he wanted to donate, but I know he's nervous to do so. My older brother, he's got 2 older sons in their 20s, so he felt comfortable enough to get tested.
Wow. It seems like a really difficult thing to ask somebody.
It is. There's a lot, the typical risk involved, but there's even though my older brother's a match, there's no guarantee that my body's going to accept it,
right? Even
with the rejection meds. So there's that chance of going through this whole process, going through the surgery, and then my body says, no, thank you. And then it's dialysis for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Is there any chance to grab another pancreas while they're in there, or?
No, they say, because it has to be on the right side. And so the vessels and arteries that are used have been used already twice. I should say 3 times, because I still have my original pancreas for the digestive enzymes.
Right.
And the transplanted pancreas is more for the insulin. So I was hoping, but that's out of the question. So the kidney is transplanted in the front, right kind of by the hip bones. My first one for my dad is on the right side. So for my brother is going to be on the left side. So this is probably going to be the final one. And I'm hoping it'll last.
Yeah, well, I hope so too.
Forever. Yeah.
You're in a unique position to answer a question. So you've already said, it's not going to happen to me. I'm young, like that kind of thing. Like that's how everybody thinks. Mm-hmm. And when they're faced with the idea of what could happen, everybody just, they dismiss it somehow, right? They're like, oh, that won't happen, blah, blah, blah. But when it actually happens and there's no rewind button, can you explain how that feels internally?
Loss, fear, My life is over. I when I was losing my vision over the 8 months, both of my retinas had detached by then. My optic nerves were dead, and little vessels were growing out to try to get oxygen. But the eye doctor that I was going to was lasering them to shut that down. And every time he did that, my vision got worse. So knowing that from full vision as it gets smaller and smaller, kind of like tunnel vision, and then you wake up one day and there's nothing, absolutely nothing, is terrifying. How am I going to live my life? Am I going to have to live at home forever? I mean, when I worked at the deaf and blind school, I had seen the deaf students travel quite a bit, and they're way younger than I was. I'm like, they can do it, but now in my 20s, going on 30, how is it even possible for me? But you learn, like you said, you learn to adapt, and you're always kind of in survival mode because it is a world of the sighted. So it's hard to thrive in a society that kind of looks down on people with disabilities. And you're always out there trying to prove yourself. And that's difficult too, of being looked at as a liability instead of an asset, because people with disabilities tend to work harder because they know how hard it is to get a job. And once they get a job, they want to stick with it. So they tend to work harder and are more dedicated than able-bodied people.
Was there self-reflection as the vision was waning? Like, did you say, "Oh my God, what did I do? I can't believe I did this"? Did any of that happen? And my follow-up question to that is, are you the same person now you were when you were 27, or are you a completely different person?
Yes, self-reflection. Even now, self-reflection. I mean, going on 19 years later, still self-reflection all the time, because I'm missing out on stuff. My family's so used to me moving around the house without my white cane that they tend to forget that I'm blind. Same thing with friends. So, hey, it's over there. It's over there. Well, where is over there? So stuff like that really kind of hurts in a way. That they're, I mean, in a way, it's nice that they're forgetting that I'm blind, that they're not treating me any differently. But on the other hand, it's like, you can't put a sharp knife in the sink and not tell me,
Right.
Little stuff like that. Or if you're going to move stuff, hey, give me a heads up. I've broken 9 toes from objects being in the walkway, my path. And so forgetting to tell me, I'm like, oh, well, too late, another broken toe. But I'd say the second part of that, for sure, I'm a different person for sure. In good ways and bad ways. I know I have a lot of irritation, get irritable, quite a bit of people trying to be my voice and trying to do things that they think I need or want to do. And a lot of times we may not need help or want help. So the best thing is to ask instead of assume.
Right.
So I try to be patient. It's always a teaching lesson and a learning lesson for others as well, as because a lot of people have never interacted with a person with a disability. So I try to take that moment to teach and have them learn something new instead of kind of being, oh, you're such a jerk. You're so ignorant,
Yeah.
I mean, it might go through my mind of, hey, if I put on the Uber app, hey, I'm blind, need assistance. And they pull up and don't say anything to me. And I'm like, is this my car? Is it not my car? So then it's like
and then if you initiate and it's not an Uber, but it's somebody with ill intentions, they'll be like, yeah, this is the Uber, get in.
Yeah. And I've done that where I've tried to get in a different car because I thought it was the Uber or Lyft, and it's not. And it's not because the driver doesn't say anything or they don't hop out of the car and say,
Yeah.
hey, Sammy, and so stuff like that is kind of frustrating for sure. But you try to take it in stride and try to show patience for sure. Like I said, a lot of people, they see people with disabilities, but never have really interacted with them.
Right.
And we're just the same as everybody else. We bleed red just like you. We have a heartbeat. We have a mind. We have a voice. But we're not treated like that, which is really hard.
Yeah. I can't imagine, honestly. Do you ever have like one-to-one feelings like I traded my sight for Mountain Dew? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, did you ever think of it that way? Like, wow, I did these things and somebody told me not to, but I did it anyway. I was sure I was going to be okay. I was really wrong. And I have nothing to, do you know what I mean? It's not like you ended up with something for your trouble that was positive. And I guess I'm asking you, Sammy, because just in general, like about food, like forget diabetes for a second and your blindness and all that. Like every day people make decisions like that. And we say it, but I don't think anybody thinks it. Like, a cigarette takes a certain amount of moments off your life. A decision, blah, blah, kills a brain cell, like that kind of thing. Like I'm going to run into something. I play football and, blah, blah, blah. Like there's trade-offs you're making and you're paying with the end of your life. And I just don't think that anybody sees it that way. And I am almost desperately asking you to put into words, like what would you not give to go back? Go to your browser, type in touchedbytype1.org. The one is the numeral 1. When you get there, you can check around, look at the site. It's delightful. Or go right to that programs tab and see what Touched by Type 1 does for people with type 1 diabetes. After you've picked around a little bit, go right to that annual conference. That's where you're going to see that on September 16th, 2023, Scott, well, I don't think my name's there yet, but trust me, I'll be there. I am going to be at Touched by Type 1's annual conference, giving a number of different talks, and I hope you can be there with me. Touchedbytype1.org. Registration opens on August 1st. We're getting close, but go check out the venue and see if you can't get your ducks in a row to come see me. We'll say hi, take some pictures, smile. I'll smile. You don't have to if you don't want to. You want to try to look serious in the photo? It's fine with me, but I'm going to smile. Touchedbytype1.org. Today's podcast is sponsored also by Dexcom. Dexcom.com/Juicebox. I just typed it in. Oh, look at this. They've updated my page. It's very lovely and colorful. Cool people wearing Dexcom G7s. The new Dexcom G7, it says, the most accurate CGM system. Manage diabetes confidently with a powerfully simple Dexcom G7. That could be you. I won't read the site to you when you get there. But once you get there and read past those words, you're going to see a button that says Get Started. You can click on that, or you can scroll down and look a little bit look more at the. Well, that was technical. Let me start over again. You can click on Get Started and fill out the data. And what's wrong with me? I feel like I hit my head. Dexcom.com/Juicebox. Click on Get Started. I'm lost. What am I? Am I having a... Hold on a second. Hold on. All right, I got this. Dexcom.com/Juicebox. Click on Get Started, and you'll be taken to... And you'll be taken... And you'll be taken... Yeah, taken. And you'll be... Mother of... Click on Get Started and you'll get taken down to the new patient form where you can get started with the Dexcom CGM. Fill out a little bit of information. Dexcom is going to get right back to you. But you can also look around the page and learn more. Learn more about the connected pumps that work with Dexcom G6. You can learn about getting started with Dexcom G7. Take a look at the receivers, how it might work with your Apple Watch, what the device looks like on different people. And you can read about how you can share your data with up to 10 followers. There's so much information on this page. Don't worry about the fact that something seems to be wrong with me. The page is terrific. G7 for Medicare, cost and coverage information, how it works, an overview of the product, Dexcom G6, everything is at my link, dexcom.com/juicebox. I am now going to go make sure that I'm okay, because I think it's possible I've banged my head and I'm not aware of it. Anyway, I'm going to leave all that in. You should know that there are times where I can't talk. Today was one of those times. Don't take that out on Dexcom, though. Dexcom.com/juicebox. Touched by type1.org. Links in the show notes. Links at juiceboxpodcast.com. Oh, look at that. Now I'm rolling. Now it's over. Great.
I mean, I'd give up everything to have sight, even if it's for one day.
Really?
I think about that a lot. There are times where I give up my life just to have vision for 24 hours, just to see my family, just to see my nephews.
No, I mean, that's what I appreciate you saying that.
I know it's going to be because so 2004, I lost my vision, and over the years, because my eyes were not getting oxygen, they started to change color. I got cataracts and glaucoma and was treated for that, but so the whites of my eyes kind of turned yellowish, and my pupils were constantly dilated, and they started to shrink. So I could feel people staring at my eyes all the time. So I made the decision to get prosthetics in 2012.
Okay.
And nowadays, people don't even know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know that I have prosthetics unless I tell them, or unless one of my eyes is looking the other way. Sometimes that happens when I rub my eyes and forget about it. But other than that, back in the day, I guess kind of like marble types, where they would put it in the eye socket. So what they did for mine is they put like a tiny rubber ball in my eye socket, and they stretched the muscle over it. And then the eye doctor handmade my eyes and hand painted my eyes, which is kind of cool because I could choose a color. I used to have blue, and now I have gray.
Wow.
So it's kind of cool that I could change my colors. With the Medicare, I can change my eyes every 5 years, so I can get a new color every 5 years. I've had my original blue, I've had green, and now I have gray. But that moment of there goes my eyes, there's no chance of in the future being able to see again.
Yeah. It feels so similar to when my son left for college, and I told him, I'm like, there are just a couple of things in life if you do them, you can't go backwards, and that they'll stay with you forever. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to know that those things are going to be as impactful as they are. So I listed them out as I saw them for him. And it's funny because as you're talking, I almost picture you in a jail cell because you murdered somebody, sitting there every day having to think about it and saying, I wouldn't do this again. Like, if you could let me do this again, I would do it differently.
You put it into good words. That's exactly what it feels like.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I mean, it's not especially, but because even when you were diagnosed, like, they really weren't giving great advice at that point. And the technology was specious, and and you're just being told, don't eat sugar. That's not valuable. Like, just to tell somebody, hey, just change everything. You just had this diagnosis. You're 17. Now just go ahead and change everything about your life on top of that. And you have 1 year to figure it out, by the way, before you lose your insurance with your parents. I mean, you weren't given a level playing field. That's for certain. I mean, I don't see this as your fault. Like, you understand. I hope that's clear. I don't see it as fault. I just see it as very just bad luck circumstances But at the same time, I don't know how you could possibly not put it on yourself internally. I think I would, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I blame myself all the time for losing my vision. It's my fault for not taking care of my blood sugars, for not doing the insulin like I should have, for not listening to there's always a blame. It's a heavy weight that I carry on my shoulders that I don't think will ever be removed.
Yeah. But, and it isn't like, if we're going to just say fault, like yeah, I mean, okay, letter of the law, you did it, right? But I mean, did you really know you were doing it while you were doing, I mean, honestly, it's not like pulling the trigger on a gun. Like if I point a gun at you and I pull the trigger, I have an expectation that the person I shoot is going to die. You didn't think that's what you were doing to yourself, though.
No, absolutely not. I figured, well, as long as I can get my sugars back down, everything is going to be okay. I can make up for it. There was, and the reason I had reached out, because there was a podcast with a mother who had talked about her teenage son who kind of was doing the same thing that I did back then, of catching up. And that's what made me want to come on the podcast and say, I was in your shoes that you are in now. Don't continue down that path, because look what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's fearful. It's terrifying to be able to go from 20/20 vision to absolutely zero vision.
And at the level that you were managing at for those 12 years, I think that's about what I hear from people, because there are other people who've come on with other kidney issues or sight issues, etc. This like 10-year thing, like 10, 12 years, like of really not paying attention and not doing the things that you need to do. It seems to be about as long as your body can take it. For a lot of people. You were taking some insulin, but what were you doing? Like running background insulin, not really injecting for food all the time, stuff like that?
It was more just for food and not for correction. Because again, the test strips didn't always test to see what my sugars were. So, okay. And I didn't really understand the whole carb issue as well. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to guess. I know it's 1/6, 1 for every 6, and I'm not sure what these carbs are, because I didn't look at the label. Didn't really quite still understand it, because again, no nutritionist, no diabetic education. Just whatever the doctor said, here you go. This is what you're supposed to do. I'm like, okay.
I don't imagine that even people right now, like 2023, somebody who's 15, 20, 30, 25, 30 years old even could believe that, but it's true. Like when we were growing up, Sammy, no one discussed that any food was better or worse for you than any other food.
Mm-hmm.
That was not a consideration. Like soda was a thing from like Happy Days, like from the 50s, like a treat that happened at a diner, for example. And it was tasty and different, and soda, like no one thought about it as a bad thing. My parents drank copious amounts of coffee. No one said, hey, you probably shouldn't drink 10 pots of coffee a day. My dad smoked 2 and 3 packs of cigarettes a day. No one ever said to him like, hey, that's going to kill you, until time went forward and society started talking about it differently. And that's the first time my dad was like, oh, people say this is going to kill me. Like my dad would go into coughing fits that were, maybe beyond description. And it ended and everybody was just like, ha ha, like that happens to Ben. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, like if you did that now, if you coughed in public the way my father coughed 10 times a day, someone would have taken you to a hospital. And back then it just wasn't like that. And diabetes was that personified. Like I wonder if that doctor wasn't saying to you, look, do this stuff, don't eat sugar. Did they ever tell you you're not going to live long?
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's right on the cusp of when it started getting thought about differently. I mean, there are people older than you, or not older than you, but who have had diabetes longer than you, who I've spoken to, or were told, just like, I had a woman told, leave college. It's not going to be worth it. You're not going to live that long anyway. And I mean, and when that's the expectation, then A, how are you supposed to live like that's not going to happen? And B, what are you expecting from doctors who think you're going to die anyway?
Right.
You know, and you were just on that cusp right there of when we were starting to figure it out a little bit. It's so terrible. I am very sorry. I know that's not, I don't know if that's something that you care to hear or not, but I mean, it does just seem to me that your situation, even if you're going to blame yourself for it, like it just seems random to me.
Yeah. And the information that I know now, I mean, it's, again, diabetes is a moving target. It doesn't stay still. You know, for me, I've had lots of changes, even within days of the doctor setting my correction scale and my carb ratio. I'm like, okay, this is not working. I'm having lots of lows. I'm having lots of highs. It's constant, it's constantly moving. And sometimes it's frustrating because my mind is set on this dose, but oh, darn it, I forgot I have to do this dose now. And in that sense, it's kind of frustrating because it's always changing. And oh, now we have this new medicine. Oh, now we have this and this and this. And it's like, well, which one is best for me? I've been on this Novolog for a long time. That seems to work.
Why are you bringing up a different one or something like that?
Yeah, and now I take 3 insulins. So I have my Novolog with the meals, and then I take NPH in the morning with my transplant meds because I take prednisone every day.
Oh.
And no other doctor has ever mentioned how prednisone could affect my sugars ever until this recent doctor.
Isn't that fascinating? So you're taking a medication that you have to take that's driving and holding your blood sugar up, and no one's ever put the 2 and 2 together and said, hey, you know what, why don't we reach back to this NPH stuff, and so you have a nice background of trying to push down on this number.
Isn't that crazy?
No, I mean, I wish I have to tell you, Sammy, I wish it was, and I don't think it is.
No.
Yeah, wow, that's something else. What is, how are your outcomes now? Where's your A1C? What's your variability like? What are your goals?
Last time I checked, I believe my A1C was a 6.9.
Wow.
Which came down from last year, I believe was a 11. So I've focused more on, especially going into end stage renal disease, of, hey, I really need to pay attention. And there are days where I'm like, you know what, I don't care. I really don't care. Because with dialysis, it just makes you weary all the time. You're so tired all the time that I don't feel like eating, but I know I have to eat. I know I have to take my insulin. I know I have to take my transplant meds. And that's what kind of keeps me going is these have tos. I wish they weren't, but they are.
Can I ask a question? Did the blindness not move you on the diabetes stuff? Was it the kidney stuff that got you to do differently?
Yeah, it was more the kidney stuff. Yeah.
Wow. Can you walk me through that a little bit? How did losing your sight not kick you into gear?
So in 2004, I had to move back with my parents again because I was working at a deaf and blind school. Couldn't drive anymore, so they had to come drive an hour and a half to come pick me up, and all of my stuff moved back home. I don't know. I mean, it's when I lost my sight, I was so fearful of getting out of bed. I slept for 20 hours a day. My parents had to force me to get up to eat to take my insulin. They did all of that for me until about 6 years, deep, dark depression. My life is over. I can't live as a blind person. Of course, thoughts of suicide go through my head, but then I'm like, you know what? If those kids, and this is what kind of changed the tide of working at the school, there was a student who was blind and he was on the wrestling team. And I was assistant coach to the basketball team. And I would just watch him travel the halls of the gym, out on the campus, back to the dorms all by himself. Like, oh, if he can do it, and I know he's yet a lot younger than me, I should be able to do that too.
Right.
And before that, I only had one interaction with a student who was blind in middle school. He had a locker next to mine. And he would travel the school hallways. And so that those two memories came back to me. Like, if they can do it, I can definitely do it. So it took a lot of training. I went to like a blind training center, kind of refreshed my memory of how to cook, how to clean with different techniques and methods. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I knew blindness was already going to be permanent, and there's nothing I could do to change it. But then with the chronic kidney disease, I don't even know why that struck more of a chord with me.
Yeah.
Because maybe because I could lose my life with the kidney disease versus blindness.
Is it also maybe because you worked through the depression part of it too?
Could be. I mean, there's still some depression there, of course, but it's not as drastic as it was back in 2004 to 2010.
Back then, did you have a plan?
No. I was just going to be in bed the rest of my life. Let my parents do everything. I was afraid to take my dishes to the sink, to walk 10 steps from the table to the sink. I was afraid to do that I'd drop it. And so I didn't do that for the longest time.
Wow.
And then I saw how somebody had to be home with me all the time because, again, vial and syringe, so they had to measure out my insulin. So they would kind of take turns between their jobs and stuff if somebody would be home with me all the time. I just kind of felt and heard it in their voice of how exhausted they were.
So that's the second time you said that. So the first time you said that you could feel people looking at your eyes. And I wanted to ask about that. Is it like, when you're in a room and you can feel there's another person there, but you don't have to see them to know? Like, it's almost like the air pressure is different or the pauses are different or something. Is that the stuff you're reading when you're like, I know they're looking at my eyes right now?
Yes. And you can kind of feel that, sometimes when you feel someone staring at you, someone's looking at you. And that's kind of how it is. Again, everybody has an aura, so I can feel that. And like you said, the pressure in the room changes. Like when I'm walking, I can feel like the tree overhead, like the branches overhead. I can feel that. I can feel if there's a car next to me. I don't know how big it is, but I know there's something there.
Right.
So
the same thing with when you're living alone with your parents, like you feel that can you feel that they're burdened by this, that they wish it wasn't happening? I'm sure nobody said it to you, but did you have that feeling?
Yeah. Their energy had changed for sure.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
and wow. I think it's still kind of that way too. They're older now, they're in their 70s, and it's kind of where I'm helping to take care of them now.
Wow.
My mom is deaf and my dad's hard of hearing. So thankfully, growing up, I knew sign language. If I had lost my vision without knowing sign language, that would have been difficult to communicate with my mom. But we make it work. We do tactile signing, where she can sign into my hands or use my body as part of the sign, and I sign to her.
Yeah.
Just anything. So, I mean, we make it work.
Is there any lightheartedness about it at all? Anyone ever said, hey, what a pair we make? Or something like that?
Oh, yeah. When my mom and I are out shopping, she's my eyes, I'm her ears, and people comment on that all the time. Oh, you guys would make a great pair. So, yeah.
How about, again, this happened to you 29 years old. Am I right about that?
Yep.
Okay. Were you in a relationship at that point?
Nope.
Had you had relationships prior?
Nope. Never. I mean, I've dated, but never been in a relationship. And I feel too, back then I was all about sports. That was my thing. I don't have time to date men. I don't have time, it was all about me and my sports. And then now, losing my vision, I've dated, but a lot of times I find, and I've gone on don't tell my parents. I got on those dating those dating sites. They're not always accessible, but I found a way to make them work like Bumble. And I start talking with a guy, and in my profile, I would say I'm blind, but they'd still reach out to me. And then when I bring it up again, they ghost. And it's like, really?
Like they didn't see it at first, and then they were like, "Oh, geez."
Yeah. Or some of them are like, "Hey, yeah, it's great. I'm cool with that." And it's like, "Hey, you want to meet?" And then they're gone.
Sammy, you just said, "Don't tell my parents," like you were 15. That was really interesting.
They're not going to listen to this podcast anyway. I have other friends though.
Yeah, I mean, they're part of hearing and deaf. They're not listening to the podcast for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you okay with like humor around about this stuff? Like it. So if you're with a person you trust, you care about, or well, it's talked about like no differently than I don't know, break balls with a friend about something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of times I use my blindness as an icebreaker, because a lot of people are like, I don't know how to act around her. I don't know how to treat her. And so I'll use my blindness as an icebreaker, and I'll laugh about it. And they're like, okay, well, that's cool. She's cool about it. I'm cool about it.
Let them in there. Yeah. I thought for sure when you told me when you were on Bumble and they found out I was blind, they still tried to send you a dick pic. That was exactly where I thought this was going. I thought guys are so wanting to do that, even if they don't even think you can see it.
Well, I want to say it. Probably, I want to say one guy did, and I'm like, really?
Did he say?
I think because we had got to the point of texting, and so he's like, send me pictures of you. I'm like, how am I supposed to do that?
You should have sent a picture of half your face in the armoire. That would have been hilarious. But he still did it, huh? He still was like, here, let me show you.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't help.
Yeah, we're fascinating people, men in general. I mean, that really made my point. And by the way, most people heard me say that and think, "Oh my God, Scott, you're ridiculous." But see, it happened.
It does. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
trust me, I know people. Okay, so do you ever can I ask you a really uncomfortable question?
Mm-hmm.
You ever consider getting like I don't know what it's called. I guess it's a prostitute, right? Have you ever thought of that?
Like an escort type?
Yeah, yeah. Have you ever thought of doing that?
As long as I don't share this with my family, yes, I have. But it makes me fearful because of being taken advantage of.
Yeah, you need a third party. You got to have a real good friend be your reverse pimp somehow. Like somebody's got to be there for you for safety.
Yeah, I've talked with one of my good friends, and she's helped me with stuff like that before. But it's always the vulnerability that stops me.
Sure. No, I would have a hard time imagining how you could get over it, but I still think you would think about it.
Oh yeah, I mean, even going out for a walk. I really can't enjoy the sun. I can't enjoy hearing the birds. I have to pay attention to where I'm going and what's around me and all the noises around me to make sure that I stay safe.
Yeah, because in a world where a guy would send a dick pic to a blind woman on Bumble, you need to watch out for yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%. No, 1,000,000%. Like, I definitely get that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Do you have any other autoimmune issues?
No.
Nothing else has ever come up?
Nope. Thyroid has always been normal, and I've heard you talk about that. My mom and her mom has had thyroid issues, but thankfully mine has always been normal, and I haven't had any issues with that.
No celiac or anything like that, digestion stuff?
I ended up getting gastroparesis in 2010. Had no idea what it was. Lots of vomiting after meals and stuff, and then finally diagnosed. So I was on medication for the longest time. And I went to a chiropractor because I was having back issues, and after a couple adjustments, my gastroparesis went away.
Really?
I kid you not.
Cool.
I kid you not. Yep.
Hey, listen, I don't know if there's any cause there, but good for you and congratulations.
Yeah. But now with dialysis, it's kind of returned.
Coming back.
Yes. So that's kind of it's frustrating.
Are you going to a dialysis center or are they doing it at home?
Center. That's a lot. For me, it's more conducive to do a center than try to figure out doing it at
Yeah,
home.
I kind of imagined, but I just wanted to check. And
Yeah.
are you wiped out afterwards? Does it kick your ass?
Yes, it does. Even on my off days, it's like I'm recuperating. It's the weariness that is the biggest thing. The first week, it was awful. Leg cramps all the time, hard to breathe, shortness of breath, heart palpitations. But I guess that's kind of normal when you first started, and then after a while, your body gets used to it. Um, but the weariness always stays. So usually I have to take a nap in the afternoon because I have it in the morning from 7 to 11, 4 hours a day, three times a week. And then afternoons I usually take a nap, and then on my days off, sometimes I'll take a nap up to twice a day because it's very, I can't work. It's hard to really do anything chores or a chore.
No,
no pun intended.
No, my friend went through dialysis and I know it was really difficult. Hey, did you switch to Diet Mountain Dew?
No, I don't drink. The only thing I drink is water, strictly water.
Good for you. Diet Mountain Dew is not that bad. I mean, if you're going to drink Mountain Dew, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's funny too, because I remember it from when I'm your age, like I'm 3 years older than you. But you guys, like, you don't know, like when Mountain Dew came out, it was so good and like so different from anything I'd ever had before in my life. And I don't know, like it just, it's such an interesting time in our history where we were able to make all these like so-called foods, and yet we never really considered what, if anything, they might be doing.
Yeah, very, very addicting. And I have read that's what sugar does is makes you want more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So one bite of candy or potato chips, I mean, just cake, anything like that. Oh, I gotta have another one little piece two little pieces is okay. No, three little,
right.
It adds up.
Yeah, it's like gambling almost. You're like, I'll just bet $1, and then before you know it, you're like, I lost $500, and it's that same sort of slippery slope thing. What am I not asking you that I should be? But what don't I know about your life that's interesting or might be valuable for people to know?
Pay attention. Pay attention to your diabetes for sure. And it's not a game. It's definitely not a game. No matter how frustrating it can be or burdensome it can be, you need to pay attention all the time. Even, when your sugars are high, it adds up. It does damage.
Yeah.
And over years of that, it's going to hit you out of the blue, and if you get married, have kids, and you miss out on that, it's going to hit you hard.
Right. No, I can't even. I genuinely can't imagine what you're going through. Do you have a dog? Do you have a seeing eye dog?
I do not. No. You have to have a seeing eye dog. You have to travel quite a bit, out and about quite a bit, and I'm more of a homebody, so that wouldn't work. But I, we have a dog here. We have a cat here. I have a visually impaired cat. My younger brother thought it was cool if I had a blind cat for his blind sister. So yeah, we get along good.
Well, see, your younger brother's got a good vibe about him, and I would imagine it helped you. My brother has a one-eyed cat, and he said they went to a shelter and they were looking at animals, and he's like, I saw one that had just one eye, and I thought, well, this is the one I'm going to help. That's it, and he took it. Yeah. So, I mean, it's nice to help people that need help, and it's nice to help animals that need help.
Absolutely, yep. They can sense that, just like people. I mean, they can sense when something's wrong with you. They sense that you're sick, and so a lot of dogs tend to gravitate towards me because they know I'm sick. All of my brother's dogs, they gravitate towards me. So in a way, it's kind of cool that I get their attention and their love.
Yeah, 100%. Wow. Well, I mean, is your attitude? I mean, I'm going to end on this for you. Okay, so. Is your attitude a function of your new perspective? Like I always say that, like, the more you experience in life, the more broadly your perspective grows, right? And then the more you can kind of look at things and say, well, that's not important. Like, things that you would hold as very important in the past, aren't. Things that you would ignore, are important. Like, that kind of stuff, you almost get the perspective of a person who's lost, a life almost, but you're still alive. And instead you're like, wow, I'm still here. And this is what it is. Like, you seem very kind. Do you think you're a kind person?
Yeah, I give more than I receive. I don't like receiving gifts. I feel people have pity on me, so they give me gifts, or that I can't afford it. So I give more, because there's always somebody who's the least of you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
There's always somebody who's worse off than you. So I find, for me, giving to others it helps.
Yeah.
It helps me. Attitude wise, still kind of cynical at the world. I know things are slightly changing, but I feel like it's always going to be, anybody with a disability is always going to be at the bottom of the totem pole, no matter what. We're always going to be shoved down there. And when we try to climb up, we're pushed back down. So trying to be an advocate and fight for that and fight for rights. And, there's laws that protect us, but they're not always followed, which is frustrating too.
Right. I really believe in helping people as a way to help yourself at times. And I hadn't planned on talking about this, Sammy, but do you listen to the podcast with any regularity?
Sometimes it depends on what your subject is.
Okay, that's fair. My mom's health is in a sharp decline, and as a matter of fact, talking to you today is maybe the best thing I've done today. And I actually appreciate the opportunity to not think about things for a little while. But I don't think my mom's going to live much longer. And we might be talking about days. And my wife's like, why don't you cancel this recording this afternoon? And I said, no, I like it. I like helping people, and I like making this recording so it helps other people. And I felt like I was doing something today. And I'm in a position where I can't help my mom any longer. And I just thought, well, I'll try to help other people. And I find it really rewarding, honestly, in ways that are hard to maybe to understand if you're not, if you don't find yourself in this situation, I guess.
Yeah. I get it. It's like you're helping your mom or connecting with your mom by helping other people.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels like I'm also very much a problem solver, and I think I'm a caregiver. And sometime about an hour before you and I got on, I think I made the last decision for my mom that I can make. And so it's a very lonely feeling to not be able to do something for her. And believe it or not, the way my brain works, asking you that question about whether or not you thought about getting an escort, I actually felt good about that question. I thought that's a really honest thing that people in your situation must go through, and I bet nobody asks them about it.
Nope. Yeah. No, it's one of those questions, can be too personal. But I've heard of, I've listened to other podcasts where, whatever their disability is, they go that direction, because that's the only way they feel they can get connection and love from somebody else. And sometimes I feel that way too, it's from strangers versus family or friends. But again, it's that vulnerability and afraid of being taken advantage of that definitely holds me back.
Right. Well, just get yourself get yourself some muscle and a little bodyguard action. You'll be okay. What about other stuff? What happens if you, because the other thing I'm hearing from you is, to me, the most restrictive part of your situation is not being able to immediately get up and do something. Like that actually is the thing that hit me. Like, what if I want to go somewhere? I can't. What if I want to do this? Like I've got to ask another person. Like that thing, I know must not be fun. But what happens if you get it in your head? Like, I want to smoke weed. Like, how do you make things like that happen?
No, good question. Find a friend who does it and ask, hey, can you introduce me?
Yeah, you need a facilitator for things. I don't just mean weed. I mean like anything. Like you need a facilitator for some of that stuff that's not the stuff we say out loud.
Right, absolutely. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because again, a lot of websites are not accessible. They're not easy to navigate. You know, you hear link, 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 link. Well, what is this link for? Or blank, 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 blank. Well, what's going on here? So I mean, and there is a law, an ADA law, that websites are supposed to be accessible, but a lot of that is ignored. And it's hard to, I mean, there's just so much out there that you can't find every single one. But yeah, I have to depend on friends for that, kind of get a feeler out there of if they're comfortable, if they're not comfortable, and if I think of a friend that, I'll ask her. Well, no, she doesn't, the topic is kind of ignored. Or,
like what if you drop the hint? You're like, hey, mama's looking for some weed. And then they just kind of ignore you. And then you're like, oh, I said it, nothing happened. Like that kind of thing. Or even like, I mean, boy, you really would have to have a good friend to say, look, I know this is crazy, but I'm looking for an escort and I don't feel safe. And I need some help. Because if we were friends and you asked me that, I'd be like, all right, like because now we're probably involved in something illegal to some degree or another. But maybe we could work it out online a little bit somewhere. And then, I don't know, it's like, I don't know, maybe it would feel exciting, like a James Bond situation.
Yeah.
I think you should go for it, Sammy.
If I do, I'll give you an update.
Oh my God. Listen to me. Thank you. If you do that, honestly, I should be the person you call the next day. You will get right back on here and we will talk all about that for 100% sure. It really is. I mean, it's just a very interesting look you just gave us into a life that I don't think many people could understand. And I think you've also, left a great message for people listening without trying to be scary. Like you're not yelling boo to them. Like you're saying, look, I did the things, here they are, here was the outcome. If you think it's not going to happen to you, you're wrong. And I've used this example before. And I think it works here. My father his whole life would say, I went to the doctor. They said, they can't even tell I smoke. And blah, blah, blah. I was like, whatever. And then, he died from, heart failure from smoking. And, but his whole life he was like, this isn't getting me. Like as it was killing him, he thought it wasn't getting him, and he luckily lived into his 70s, but it's not how it goes with this blood sugar thing is woefully misunderstood by a great many people and incredibly impactful on your entire body. Not just one part of it. Like you have blindness and your kidneys, blah, blah, blah. But that doesn't mean that, Sammy, I wouldn't say this unless I was very comfortable that you're a bright person and you know this already. There's no saying there's no damage in your heart or that there won't be one day or any of that. There's no saying this is the end of this even. And and it's not something that people talk about and they should. And it's not something people understand widely, and they should. So,
it's blindness is survivable. It's doable, for sure. I'm a testament of that. I'm a testament of that. But it's not something that I would wish on anybody or even myself. If I could go again, talking prior, if I could go back, I would I would go bankrupt to make sure my blood sugars were the way they were supposed to be. I was taking the insulin like I should have been, and I was taking care of myself. I would absolutely go back.
I fully expect that if I ever turn on the television and see Elon Musk saying he made a time machine, I'm going to see you bum rushing him on the stage. Yeah.
Whack him with my cane. Let me in there.
We're going, Elon, right now. Let's show all these people. I can't. I mean, again, it's just very kind of you to talk about all this and to let me be the way I am while we're talking about it. I don't even know how to describe myself sometimes, but it just to me seems like if we're going to talk about this, then let's really do it, you know?
Yeah. And I appreciate you letting me come on, because again, it's not a topic that's talked about, you know?
Yeah.
And it's important that everybody knows, parents, teenagers, or, you know, whatever it may be, that, hey, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you may have to be a helicopter parent or a nagging parent, but it's extremely important that your child or yourself take the time to pay attention.
Yeah. You have to find a way. You have to find a way to be a parent. And you have to believe that it's not always going to be like a great story where like, oh, I told them this and they really accepted it and everything's fine. They might not accept it, but still, when it's over, if they're alive and their kidneys work and their eyes work, then you did it. You know, not saying it has to be a battle, but it's, for some of you, it will be. Like for some of you, you're going to, I mean, listen, Sammy, between you and me, you sounded difficult when you were younger.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
But if I was your dad, I would have kept after you because I know better, because I live in this time. Your father didn't know, right? Fair enough. But if he even would have got an inkling and said, oh, no, this isn't okay, and he would have rode you, you'd be in a better situation right now, even if you had you didn't like your dad because of how he treated you, but you were healthy.
Yeah, I would have thanked him.
Yeah, right.
As you get older, you're like, oh, looking back, oh, you know, that's why my parent said that, or that's why my parent did that, or prevented me from doing that. You know, I mean, when we're younger, we don't think about that. It's all about me and having fun and whatnot, and you don't think about the consequences of yourself or to other people and how that might affect them or yourself. And then when it happens, it's like, oh, yeah, I get it now.
Right.
But then it's too late.
Yeah. If you expect to get paid right now for being a parent, you're out of your mind. You have to live long enough for your kids to get old enough for them to go, oh, wow, that was great what they did for me. And then they still might not say it to you. So, you know, it's not a job. You know, if you're looking to get paid to be a parent, like it's not really how it works. So, all right, Sammy, I appreciate this very much. Can you hold on 1 second for me?
Yep.
Thank you. How about Sammy, huh? That was terrific. Really terrific. Thank you so much, Sammy. And thanks to, I still can't talk. And thanks to, can I be honest with you guys? I got like 3 hours of sleep last night and it's like 9 o'clock at night. And I realized I got to go to bed. So I want to thank Sammy. I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank Dexcom for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. And remind you to go to dexcom.com/juicebox to get started today with the G6 or the G7, whatever your preference is. They have it at my link. Also want to remind you to go to touchedbytype1.org and look through that tab, programs tab, see all the great stuff they're doing there, and find them on Facebook and Instagram. I'm just going to cut my losses here and say thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast, but I promise I'll sleep before I put the next episode together for you. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.